This past weekend has restored my faith in and excitement for video games. Initially, I had looked at 2024's lineup of new games and struggled to find anything that I was really looking forward to. Bar a handful of exceptions, there were no obvious day one purchases that I simply couldn't wait to play. Heck, I've spent most of 2024 so far playing remasters of mid-90s Tomb Raider games. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to get a creator's pass for WASD, a video game event in London with a metric ton of indie games for people to sit down and play. And I've got to say, these smaller development teams are generally more willing to take risks and are offering up a far more diverse and enticing range of games spanning a much broader spectrum of genres. In this video, I want to highlight some of the gems I enjoyed while also talking about the event itself, how it was set up, laid out, and whether it makes a good day out for the general public. Let's start with the games. As you can see from this checklist that the convention handily provided, there was a lot here, so I can't reasonably mention everything. Even so, here are some that stood out to me. The bright colours and familiar arcade voiceovers of Victory Heat Rally were a siren song for my attention, being one of the first games I just had to play. It mixes the low poly aesthetic and sounds of early Sega Saturn titles like Sega Rally with some clever 2D work that makes cars and trackside details feel like superscalar graphics a la Outrun, despite being billboard sprites. The drifting is one of the most important mechanics in this kind of game, and I'm thrilled to say it feels just right here, with the overall package having a great sense of speed. It's just got a brilliant vibe about it, oozing 90s charm in every department. The demo is on Steam right now with a release date and price yet to be announced. Go and add this to your wishlist. I saw the banner for Crow Country from a distance and it just spoke to me, immediately pulling me over to its booth. With its low poly models, various screen filters, and slower, more deliberate movement speed, this game truly feels like a PlayStation 1 era horror title. The kind of thing that would be love at first sight to the Spear Hunter and Avalanche reviews. Getting hands-on, it did feel a little stiffer than I expected. Granted, that's probably by design given the kind of game that it is. I'm still very interested in the game and keeping an eye on it, but overall I got the sense that it was almost there, that it was just missing a little something, the final polish and tweaks that would completely sell me on it. That said, the game still called to me. I think there's something special here, and it clearly knows its audience, who will no doubt adore it. The game's out on the 9th of May, it will be coming to Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox, and there's a free demo you can try out right now. One of my IRL friends, Mr. Terry Chaos, put Pepper Grinder on my radar and I got to try it out at WASD. Some people have called this a Sonic-like experience, and it's similar to the Drill Wisp from Colors, I guess? I enjoyed my time with this one. It's a well-paced, decent-looking 2D platformer with a fun gimmick that has some really satisfying leaps between mounds of dirt and sand. Flinging yourself around using your oversized drill feels great. This one would probably be an instant buy if I hadn't promised my wife that I wouldn't buy myself any games between now and my birthday in a few weeks' time. For the rest of you, it's out right now on Steam and Switch, and is another title with a public demo that you can download today. Full disclosure, as part of the event, 505 Games were kind enough to give me a free review copy of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, which I have immediately started downloading to my Steam Deck. Funded through a successful Kickstarter in July 2020, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is the spiritual successor to the legendary PlayStation RPG, Suikoden. Like its inspiration, it's a turn-based RPG that allows you to form your party from, as the name suggests, over 100 playable characters. It was even helmed by Suikoden's creator, Yoshitaka Murayama, who sadly passed away in February 2024. Rest in peace, Murayama-san. We are losing too many legends this year. We've seen a few of these kind of projects over the years, where auteurs use fan funding to create their dream titles. and thankfully Aedan is proving to have much more in common with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night than Mighty No. 9, which is to say it's made a great first impression on me, and I'm looking forward to putting in many more hours. If you're an RPG fan, whether that's someone who's been around since the original Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, or you've only recently discovered the genre through HD 2D titles like Octopath Traveler and Star Ocean: The Second Story Arc, Aedan is an absolute no-brainer. It's available right now on pretty much everything. Go buy it! I'm a sucker for a good twin-stick shooter. Hell, I'm making one of my own, Crisis Island, please wishlist it on Steam. For that reason, I couldn't resist having a go on Odenfall. In short, if you like Nuclear Throne and Enter the Gungeon, then this is going to feel very familiar, with pixel art characters and bullets flying everywhere at a fast pace. Whether it does enough to distinguish and set itself apart from its aforementioned competition remains to be seen, but I certainly had a good time playing it. Odenfall is currently listed as coming soon on Steam. There will also be a free version featuring the game's first chapter called Odenfall Prologue. Heads up, Prologue is listed as a separate game, not as a free demo, so bear that in mind when searching for it. The Alien Hominid franchise is still going strong with its newest entry, Alien Hominid Invasion. This one came out in November of last year, but I have to put my hands up and say I hadn't heard about it until I saw it at WASD. This is more of the frantic run-and-gun fun that's fast, frenetic, and the absolute embodiment of mayhem. This one's very clearly built around its 4-player co-op, and while I could see this being perfect for a session with friends, I'm not sure how it would feel in single-player mode. Still, if you want to take yourself back to the Newgrounds era and play something that's not ashamed to just be an outlandish, unapologetic, and ridiculous video game, then you can't go wrong with this one. It's out now on Steam, Switch, and Xbox, but seems to be skipping PlayStation. There doesn't seem to be a free demo either. For a while now, it's kind of felt like light gun games found a new home on VR headsets, taking on new forms since the death of the CRT televisions the original guns were designed for. Nothing quite drives that point home like playing Arcade Paradise VR, a title where you design and build your own arcade, including light gun cabinets. On paper, I really like the ideas behind this game. You do your theme hospital style business management, and, like getting to ride your own roller coasters in theme park, you can walk around your arcade and play the games. In practice, lacking the budget to license recognizable arcade machines means that most of the cabinets are imitations inspired by the classics, which just don't have the staying power and one more go addictive qualities of their source material. Fun for 5 minutes, but you'll quickly move on. I didn't get to experience much of the business management side. Maybe that's more fleshed out and enticing. I'm conscious that walking around your creations in games like Cities Skylines is just a bonus, the cherry on the cake, with the main draw being the planning and development side, so maybe that's the case here. If so, it's hard to get a feel for that in a shorter demo session. Playing at the event did let me try out a MetaQuest 3, and as someone who only owns a PlayStation 4's VR headset, man, that Quest hardware is such an upgrade! Meta account aside, I need to renew my tech and get something I can finally play Half-Life Alyx with. For those who are curious, Arcade Paradise VR is available now on Meta's storefront, while those who don't have a VR headset can enjoy a, quote, flat, non-VR version on Steam, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. I was surprised to see a sequel to Grapple Dog at the show. While the original's Game Boy Advance era pixel art and generally positive reception had been tempting, I'd stayed away from the first game because it centered around a grappling hook. Whether it's Bionic Commando, Super Metroid, or even the Ratchet & Clank games, grappling and swinging rarely feel good to me in a video game. I can never quite reach a point of mastery, so instead of becoming fluid and fun, it's always clunky and awkward. I'm happy to say that, after playing this demo, Grapple Dogs might just be the first game to get it right. There's something in those controls that make that mechanic seem so much more responsive and intuitive than it's ever felt before. I was having a blast, and I suddenly regret skipping that first entry, something I urgently need to go back and play through now. Cosmic Canines doesn't have a release date, price, or public demo yet, but the original is on pretty much everything, except PlayStation oddly enough, if you want to complete that in the meantime. That's just a snapshot of the amazing games that were at WASD. The show made it really apparent that while AAA games are starting to feel like very samey, bland, soulless, designed by committee products, indies are flying the flag and giving us far more passionate and interesting games to play. If, like me, you've sort of found yourself falling out of love with mainstream gaming, you need to check out the indie scene. Chances are, what you see will reignite that spark and get you addicted to this hobby all over again, and I can't thank WASD enough for reminding me of that. Speaking of, how was the convention itself? I have to praise the floor plan. While some shows can feel really claustrophobic, WASD had wide aisles that were easy to move around. It had clearly defined zones that made it easy to find what you were looking for, and the map takes full advantage of this. One thing I especially appreciated as an autistic person who is easily overstimulated was this quiet zone. In my humble opinion, every convention should have this. There was also plenty of seating to just take a break, have something to eat, and chat with friends. Again, another important element that lots of shows forget about. The stage hosting talks and panels was a decent distance away from the main show floor, so the speakers weren't getting drowned out by the audio of the games and attendees, and vice versa. One minor criticism is that I didn't realise there was another room full of games until later on, as the doors leading to it were signposted as the exit. Yeah, the exit was that way, but so were a bunch of gems, including some representation from Team Debug, who have been championing indie developers and providing free exhibition spaces across the country. Speaking of, a huge shout out to the group of friends I went with. Sitting down with a Cult of the Lamb beer and chatting away was genuinely the highlight of my day. I was in fantastic company, and I wish I got to see all of you more often. You know who you are, and I'm already looking forward to the next get-together, where we'll hopefully get to see all 10 horses. Now, the big question. Would it make for a good day out for most people? I think this show has a very specific audience and niche appeal. This is not your standard convention. There were free merch stands, including the brilliant Lost in Cult, and every game was an indie game. You weren't going to find any AAA titles. The show spread over 3 days, but you can realistically see and do everything you want to in a single day. WASD doesn't have mass appeal, but it's also not trying to please everyone. It knows what it is, it knows who its audience are, and it focuses very successfully on appealing to that crowd. I honestly wouldn't change a thing. Huge thanks to WASD for the Creator Pass, 505 Games for Aedan, the friends I met up and hung out with on the day, and, of course, my Patreon supporters who are Crow, Tiny Jericho, Mr. Terry Chaos, Ducky Go, Francis T218, and The Liberator.